Talking financial organization and a professional practice does not have to be boring. Are you ready for a few money in, money out ideas? It's Susan Gunn coming directly to your head to make you think. Can you handle the truth? Because she is known for being energetic, laughs a lot, and gives honest, sometimes direct, but always practical advice. It's time now for Money In, Money Out.
What now? There is a forever cycle. Have I done everything I need to do that whirls through my head all day and all night? We are trying to bring you up-to-date information. The state unemployment sites continue to stress out furloughed and laid off employees by not being consistent with their wording. It's a little bit like putting a square peg into a round hole. By using the verbiage they always have, it's confusing. For instance, Texas uses the word job seekers, but most really don't want a new job. They just want their old job back, but they can't return to work because of the mandatory shutdowns. It's insidious. To the furloughed employee who's had their hours greatly reduced, it feels as if the state doesn't have their back. I can tell you about that personally because that's the way I feel. The phone lines are impossible to get through. Emails go unreturned, yet life's expenses, they don't stop. The unemployment fund that we've paid into for years by the employers is not consistently accessible. Business owners that have always paid themselves as employees, paying state unemployment and federal unemployment, are getting snubbed by some states. Why? They cannot work. Therefore, the thing is, they've got on their websites, are you a business owner? And then it boots them out of the system. Had a phone call about that yesterday. There's your shout out. Anyways, he said, you're going to talk about me, aren't you? Yep, I just did. What a maddening, broken system. So here's what you have to do. On that state unemployment form, just fill it out to the best of your capability. And they should and will call you if they have more information that they need to get. I've heard from other people that they get a confirmation from the state unemployment's office that the information's been received and that they might want to contact them later. So let's all just take a deep breath. I ranted about this on my family text thread the other day, and they are all like, okay, calm down. All the states have limited resources at this time. They are all trying to figure it out. And the states that are slow in helping their workforce will hopefully soon step up their game. Well, what's the latest on the PPP and the EIDL loan? I've never heard so many varying opinions on a loan before. It's been incredible. You talk to one CPA and a different CPA, and I trust Kate the most. She's been on the 4 prior podcasts, but it's all different. And the banks are all saying different things. So without going into a great detail, here are a couple of observations from what I'm hearing. This is with my ear to the ground kind of thing. Smaller banks seem to be funding the PPP now, but may soon run out of available funds because they're funding it from their own stockpile of money. The EIDL loans have yet to be funded, as far as I've heard, as of today. Today's Friday. It could change on Monday because things happen overnight. Banks have stated that funding for the PPP has to be taken within 5 days of the loan offer, which is different than what we heard previously. And so you still have the right of refusal, or you could actually ask the bank to hold on to your application. But you're going to have to figure that out with your individual bank. Banks are interpreting it very differently across the whole United States. The one thing I want to tell you is, please be aware, these loans are without any guarantee of loan forgiveness. The more funding that's required, the less it could be forgiven. So I also want to say, you better read that paperwork really careful before you sign on the dotted line. Read where it says. And if it doesn't say that there's a potential loan forgiveness, it's not in writing. I'd be very careful about that. The other thing I want to tell you about, I had a phone call the other day, was told of a practice that it had a huge amount of debt. They were $1.3 million revenue a year, $800,000 revenue a year, and they were given a loan. And the loan was a pretty substantial amount. Just be aware that that increases your loan debt ratio. And it makes me extremely uncomfortable that you would be getting a loan. It's a loan. It's not necessarily a grant. It's a loan, and that's how it needs to be considered, that you could be given a loan that high. It still may need to be repaid, and it still may all need to be repaid with the rest of your loan debt. And so be very careful about the total amount. Make sure that it is what you truly need to survive the remainder of the year, is what I would think. Anyway, those are just a few of my up-to-date thoughts that I wanted to share with you today. Having said all that, let me introduce to you who is at the table with me today. We have a very special guest, and she's a colleague. She's a fellow certified fraud examiner. She's also a really good dear friend. I honestly think Janssen and I of Global Team Solutions have talked every day since we've been sheltered in place. Say hi, Janice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today, Susan. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Well, together, we stand together on many things. We work for two different companies, and we do the same thing, and business coaching. And so do her colleagues at Global Team Solutions. Give a shout out to them. They're all really good friends, and we work together on a lot of projects and have taken a united front together before. And so I just wanted to bring her in to talk about some of the things that are relevant right now that we're seeing, and some things that you could be doing while you're not able to see patients. That's the big thing. So on the news headline now is the hacked Zoom meetings. I want to just tell you, do not let that discourage you from being on Zoom. Zoom is a great product. I think it benefits the competitors, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So just be sure that you use a password and use the password that they'll provide you. They do an automatic thing, but you can also make one up and use the waiting room. The waiting room is really easy to get people in. And so that is an accessible tool. And Janice, we were talking earlier about how they could use the Zoom meetings to keep up with their employees.
Yeah, I think it's a great resource, and a lot of our clients are using it, and just doing it as a touch base with your employees on a weekly basis or something like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be about work. It can just be to keep you engaged with each other. I got to participate in one of my office's Zoom meetings, and it was a lot of fun, and they really just caught up with each other. They're all friends, so it's nice to keep that going.
Yeah, just to see that they're okay. That's right. The thing. So we've participated in some. Should we tell them?
Ours are fun as well.
Ours are fun too. Yeah. We actually have a group of consultants with the Academy of Dental Management Consultants group that is part of the Southwest region, and we have a Southwest region Zoom happy hour once a week. And so everybody grabs a glass of their favorite whatever, and we get together and just laugh and talk and share hearts and just make sure everybody's doing okay, because it's not so much the physical, making sure that everybody's okay, but the emotional too. It's hard.
It's
really hard.
And I think that's what I'm, one of the things that I'm hoping that continues out of all of this is that we can continue to do that, because a lot of us consultants are all in different states and different time zones. And it's been a lot of fun to get that going. And I'm hoping we can keep it up.
Yeah, I think so too. Too. So last night I had a Zoom meeting with my girls' night out group from my high school. We get together once a month and go out to dinner. Well, we haven't been able to do that. So we did a Zoom meeting last night, and some people that lived out of state that we haven't seen in a long time were able to join us because we were doing a Zoom meeting. So
yeah, I just think that's fun.
Yeah, it's just a great way to stay in touch with your employees. I'm not sure that I would recommend doing it with your patients, but
Right.
just check in with your employees and set up something and be consistent and help them out. I mean, a lot of your employees are probably stuck, at home with their kids trying to do school, and they may like some adult time. Just to
absolutely
look at another face besides their kids and or potential spouse. So I would just encourage you to think about that, consider it, but use the password and the waiting room. The waiting room, if you're the host, is really easy to do. It pops up a little message and you just open the door, so to speak, admit the person into the meeting. So
yeah, very easy.
Yeah, very easy. And that kind of segues into what we wanted to talk about next, which seems to be real important as well, is passwords.
Yes. Passwords are one of the things that I talk about the most because I find a lot of offices don't want to use them because they think they're a pain.
Yeah.
But they are a requirement by HIPAA to have a password to get into your software, so that's one of the reasons to use them. But they're also, what a great protection for it's a protection for the doctor or the owner of the practice, but also for each teammate. I think passwords are so important. And one of the things is keep your password sacred. Don't give it to anybody else. Don't give it to your teammates.
In fact, I tell a story when I speak about office practice that I was in, and I was there to catch the person who was embezzling, of course, and they were sharing their passwords, and we almost let go the wrong person. This was like 15 years ago. Almost let go the wrong person. When I saw out of the corner of my eye, there were two front desk people sitting together. One rolled over and logged in to the others and did something and then went back to her own desk. I was like, oh, well, look at that.
Right.
They know each other's passwords.
Well, and I say that to people all the time. When I was in an office, I get it. I might have shared my password with people too, just because you trust them, they're your friends. But if you're not going to give them your PIN number to your ATM, then don't give them your password to the.
There you go. That's a pretty good rule of thumb, right?
Yeah.
No kidding. And then we were talking about this verify user. Talk about that, Janice.
Yeah. So one of the things that I hear talked about all the time is the different rights that you can give to different people. Like I could say Susan has the right to delete payments, but Jackie doesn't have that right because that doesn't fit into her job description. And that's all fine. But one of the things that I really look at is I like to have that it's what's called a verify user access. And what that is if I go to delete a payment, then I'm going to have to re-enter my password in order to have that happen. This is what keeps a record in the audit trail and all of that on the practice's software is when I have to go put that username and password back in, I know that would have been Susan that did that transaction instead of Jackie.
Right. And so do you think that all practice software has that capability?
I know that most of them do, but I'm not sure that all of them do.
Yeah. So this is the point that we can always say, Not all software is created equally.
Right.
And so you will need to ask your particular software person if there is that capability to implement the verify user access.
Right.
So, all right, what about the protocol for remote access? Who gets access and what are the expectations?
Right. Everybody, we've got a lot of people that are working remotely right now. And that's one of the things that I hadn't really thought about as a protocol before. I'm a big protocol person. I like to have my protocols and systems.
It's probably just the nature of what we do, Janice.
Right.
And the nature of what we see.
Yeah. And I'm a hygienist. So, everything has its steps.
Yes, that's true.
I've got a double whammy on me there.
You do.
So that's one of the things that I think all offices and all practice owners need to think about is what is your remote access protocol? Who can access the remote, the practice software remotely? And then also, how are you doing that? Are you using a log me in or are you using some other type of remote desktop? And please make sure that that is secure. Whatever you're using, make sure that that is HIPAA secure.
And 2-layer protocol. I really strongly recommend, I've said it before on the podcast, log me in because of the 2-layer protocol on passwords and security. I think it's probably the easiest platform to use and the most secure.
I was going to say that too. It's probably the easiest one out there to use also. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and I love the ability to print on my side. So if you ever needed anything printed, then at where you were, you wouldn't have to use it. And not all of the remote accesses allow you that capability. So just make sure that everyone who gets access has their own login for the computers. I think that's really important. I know that it costs more money and that we're trying to watch our pennies right now on our expenses. But this is something that you probably don't want to try to tighten up on. So limit the number of people if you need to that get access. Not everybody needs access to your practice software.
Yeah,
and maybe one other person. Yeah. So, and then what are the expectations? And how do you track the hours that they're working? That's one of the things. If people are working remotely, you still need to track the hours.
Right. Absolutely.
So there's a product that we use that's called On the Clock. And the cool thing about On the Clock, and it's an online application, so you can download an app for the phone or you can download it for the computer. And it gives you the GPS location of where the person is when they log in. So
and that's really nice.
Oh yeah, it's really nice. It's really great. It's so easy to pull hours from there, but you've got then a record of tracking hours. So if they're working remotely, you still want to track the hours. You're just not going to give a blanket, and even if they're on salary, by the way, and they're not hourly, you probably still need to track the hours.
Yeah, especially now. And, that's what's nice about Log Me In too, Susan, is that there is like an audit trail there that shows you when somebody logged in and all of that.
Yes, also. There is. There is.
And where they logged in from. And
yeah, that's also really good.
Right.
So there's 2 things for you to look at as far as being able to track the hours.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what they can do from home that will help them when they're back in their practice. And we're just going to touch briefly on 4 different things that we thought we'd bring up that you could do while you're at home, sheltering in place like the rest of the world, which is just so bizarre to me still.
Yes.
So what can you do now that will help you when you get back to your practice? Hit it, Janice.
Yeah. So again, my favorite topic, protocols. Review your protocols and see what protocols you need to have put in place and if they're even accurate anymore. The biggest one that Susan and I like to talk about are your end of day protocols. If you don't have an end of day protocol, now is the time to create that and really think about how that needs to be done, because I cannot tell you how many offices I go into that are not even balancing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you know that everything was entered correctly in that? And there's just not that protocol in place. So now is the time to really look at, every single protocol in your office, but that's one of the most important ones. And I think the first one that you should start to create or change if needed.
Right. No kidding.
Yeah.
So that's one. And I know I have in my book, Money In, Money Out, not to plug that. I'm trying not to do that, but talk about that in a minute.
It's okay.
But it has end of day protocols. And so if they were looking for a starting point, in the book, I will tell you, just like when I speak, I give you so much information knowing that you're going to pick and choose what you implement for your practice. And so that's really essentially what these podcasts are too, is that you'll have so much information and it will trigger you to think about something. And so I'll give you this much information, understanding that if you just even get a couple of ideas to be able to put into place, then that's great. Then that's what that was for, right?
Right. Absolutely. Take what is needed for you most right now and get that going.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and the other thing that they can do is they can learn more about their practice software. What a prime opportunity.
Absolutely.
They can't play on their practice software right now to figure that stuff out, but they can sure watch the online videos.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, there's tons of online videos on how to use your practice software. And, I'm a certified Dentrix trainer as well. And you can go to the website. If you just go to dentrix.com, there's a resource center in there. And the whole team could do that at their own pace if they wanted to. All they need to do to get in there is they need to have the customer number and a support plan, in place, and they can go on and watch all kinds of videos and tutorials. And so I know that there's a lot of the other softwares that do that as well. It's a great time to be learning that and really understanding everything that your software can do, because 9 times out of 10, it can do a heck of a lot more than what people are using it for.
Well, and I will tell you, I have a service called Ask the Expert, where I remote in and I log in and the doctor and I look at reports on the practice software and compare those reports with their bank reports and the merchant card reports. And I just teach them to look at things through my eyes, right? And the common comment I get is, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that."
Right. Yes,
Oh,
I hear that a lot.
I didn't know that report was there.
Right.
Wow, really? Oh, I didn't know. So now's your time to know.
That's
Get
right.
in there and dig around and find out. Wow, that sounded really Texas, didn't it? Dig around, look it up. I'm still not as bad as Denise. So
No.
she'll appreciate that.
Yes, she will.
Let's don't tell her I said that. But anyways.
You're recorded, so.
Yeah, I know it is. Oh, well, that's okay. Just get in there and learn about the reports. And I have answered a lot of email questions on specific reports and how to look at them. And so that's what Janice and I are here to help you guys.
Absolutely.
The whole bottom line for doing these things is to be able to help you to figure those out. So the other in line with that, knowing your QuickBooks, your practice reports, know your QuickBooks reports. I was going to talk about QuickBooks at some point in time, only to say, learn how to have that back-to-back accountability. I got a call a few weeks ago from a dentist that was wanting to learn how to use QuickBooks and had their note. I think I've talked about it in the prior podcast. Had a note on the computer to give me a call, and finally called because, got all the time now. And so learn your QuickBooks reports. What do you not understand? Where are your expenses? Are things in the right accounts that need to be in those expenses? And start looking at your expenses. A mutual client of both of ours called and said, "Oh my gosh, I saved $1,200. I started digging into my QuickBooks reports and looked and found some expenses that didn't need to be that way, and they're going to save $1,200 a month."
Isn't that great?
I know, it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Great for downtime. That was like a pay raise, right?
No kidding. No kidding.
So start learning your QuickBooks reports. Now you've got time. No excuse.
Right.
No excuse.
Take the opportunity now.
Yeah. So the fourth thing that we wanted to talk about is your employee manual. Hit it, Janice.
So this is something, so many offices don't have one, or the one that's in place was from, 1999, and
Yeah, really.
it has not been updated. Take the time right now to update those. Take a look and see, do you have in there time for PTO, time off, PTO? Do you have sick leave? One of the things that's probably going to be added is pandemic.
Yeah, no kidding.
But those are all, they're all things that need to be implemented. And now is the time to look at that employee manual. We've got a lot of great colleagues, Bent Erickson and Cedar, that create these employee manuals for you. If you don't want to create it and you want to make sure that it's lawful, you want to take a look at one of those companies, because there's a lot of legal stuff that goes into those that you don't think about. So
this is the employee manual is your first line of defense in court.
Right.
And so there are a lot of reasons you need to have a good legal document. There are other things that could happen to a practice besides a pandemic. What up in your area? How many practices were hit by the tornado?
Yeah, we had several.
Yeah. And I think there were a couple of practices that were hit in Nashville. And so, things happen. Catastrophes happen. How do you word that in your employee manual to protect your practice? And then the hiring protocol needs to be in there too.
Right. Have a hiring protocol, a termination protocol, and getting your job descriptions. That's something that I think a lot of offices have a hard time sitting down and getting those listed out, the job descriptions. Now's a good time to do that also.
Wow. Now is a great time.
Right.
To sit down and hone it out. Even if you've got them written, go through and just figure out if you have everything in there. And you might send the job description to the person that's actually doing it and say, "Hey, is there something else that you're doing in here?" Now, I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't do that. They probably think that they were being replaced if you did that.
No, we do that a lot of times with our consulting clients. We will ask them, is there anything that we're missing here that you do on a regular basis that we need to add in? I think that's absolutely okay to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's 4 things for you to do. 4 things. The end-of-day protocols, learn more about your practice software with the online videos, learn about your QuickBooks reports and how to have that back-to-back accountability, and work on your employee manual. There's your homework for next week until the next week's podcast.
There you go.
There, you got something to do. We've put it in place for you. That should actually keep you busy until May 1st, right?
I was going to say, yeah. And it's all things that people don't have time to do when you're seeing patients and answering the phone calls and all of that. So this is the perfect time to do that.
Yeah.
Appreciate the downtime to get those things done.
Well, and I've got a few things to help you. All right. Are you guys ready? Because I have a surprise. Janice is laughing. These are really good. These are 2 really good surprises. One of the unfortunate things is that all of the books had been printed and shipped to the Hinman meeting for my 2 classes, the one on QuickBooks and the one on money in, money out. And so those have been returned to me, of course, because the Hinman meeting was canceled for this year. And so I have already got them, and I have way more than I need to have on hand. So I am making you an offer starting Monday for a limited time until the supplies last. Okay? Limited time until supplies last. I am offering money in, money out that is regularly $34.95 at the distributor rate for $21 plus shipping.
What a great deal.
No, and the QuickBooks in your practice, which is regularly, are you ready for this? Regularly $125. I'm offering that to you for $75. It's just the 2020 version of QuickBooks in your practice. It's no other version. Let me be clear about that. It's the 2020 version of QuickBooks. If you order another version, I'm not going to have it on hand, by the way, because we're sheltered in place. So I don't have access to additional printing supplies. But $75 for that book for the 2020 version. Both of those are plus shipping and handling, so it's minimal. But that's your deal starting on Monday. So when you get to the online store, you're going to type in, you're going to choose what you want. And when it takes you to the window, you're going to type in the code. Are you ready for this? All caps, COVID, COVID 19. That should be pretty easy to remember. COVID 19. That's the coupon code. Okay, so that's $21 for the money in, money out. That's regularly $34.95 on Amazon, and $75 for the QuickBooks in your practice, which is regularly $125. With those two, you have no excuse not to do number 2 and number 3 of what we gave you on your list. In fact,
Right.
number 1.
Number 1 also, yes.
Yeah. And number 4, I talk about employee manuals in the money in, money out. So all of those are in that. Great opportunity for you. Again, my information to you in these podcasts is not about selling. I'm just trying to not have so much clutter in my house right now with all these books that I got back.
I would say take her up on that opportunity if at all possible. I have both books and they're good.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. Thank you. I am all about trying to get as much information as I can to the industry that we so lovingly serve. And Janice and I both have such a heart for that community. Of course, Janice is a hygienist, so she's a part of that community even more than I am. So I am just thrilled that you have joined me today. I have a feeling you'll probably come back at some point in time.
I would love to.
Yeah. Well, let's just don't record our happy hour sessions. But,
definitely not.
Yeah. But anyways, I wanted to say in closing, as something that I've tried to emphasize, there is no need to panic. I know that there's a lot of information out there. Everybody's doing a webinar. Everybody's doing a podcast, including me. But there's no need to panic. We are all in a spot in time that we've never been before. It is just an incredible thing to get online. And I have some international groups that I'm in to hear that Australia's sheltered in place, and colleagues and friends in Ireland and the UK, in Germany, they're all sheltered in place. It's just amazing to me to think about what's going on, not to mention our own country. So we're in a spot we've never been before. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. It may be different than it was before. In fact, I don't know how we could go through this and not be different personally as well as business-wise. And so I just want to encourage you and to tell you, and I can speak for Janice because I know her heart too. If there is anything that we can do for you, please let us help you. Even if you're just feeling panicked, I've had a couple of those phone calls where they're a new dentist and they don't know what to do. Don't panic. Just give us a call and let's walk through some things that are within your control so that you feel like you've got some control over the situation. That's all we've got today. But please, if we can help you, give us a call. Great to talk to you, Janice. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan.
All right. Until next time, take care. Money in and money out. Well, more like money out and money in.
That's a wrap for this podcast of Money In, Money Out. Thanks for listening. Be sure to write down the most valuable tip you learned today so you don't forget it. And remember, you can find out more about all the valuable books and services Susan has to offer at www.susangunsolutions.com.